good afternoon. Today I am going to discuss about the conditional sentence, and it's one part of grammar, and it is not only useful for grammarians, it is also useful for the other who wants to write some long answers for the questions. For example, if you want to write some answers in your social, if you want to write some long answer in your EPH and some other subjects, so in this case you need the help of this conditional sentence. Okay, let's start our class of learning about the conditional sentence today. Conditional sentence or if clause. So first we clarify about the why it is called conditional sentence and why it is called if clause. Conditional sentence, this is because there are two parts. One is with if and another is when. So if clause determines the main clause, main clause determines the if clause. That's why there is condition. If you follow the conditions, then only you can change or you can go to the another condition. So it is called conditional sentence, and it is called if clause. This is because very often in most of the cases those sentences are started from if. That's why they are called the if clause also. And there are 3 rules, but somewhere we say there are 4 rules and 1 rule is 0 rule. This is called 0 because there is no change. But we have to know about it, in which condition we cannot change the verb into different forms. But we have to know it. That's why we also discuss about the 4 rules. So first rule is 0 rule. Okay. First rule is 0 rule because no changes is there. If clause is in simple present tense and when clause is also in simple present tense, but very often it doesn't happen. It happens only when any predicted things, any things are 100% sure, or it is 100% sure that no other form will be there, and we know that this is 100% sure that it will happen. For example, if you block your nose and mouth, then what will happen? You die. Okay, so block is V1 and die is also V1. So here is simple present tense and here is also simple present tense. So no change is there. That's why it is called the 0 rule, and it is also called cause and effect. Cause and effect rule also. Somewhere you can find it as a cause and effect. And for next, if you boil water, it changes into water vapor. So if you boil water and when it reaches to 100 degrees Celsius, no one can stop it becoming the water vapor. So boil is V1 and changes is V5. So V1 and V5 are the verbs of simple present tense. So simple present tense is here and here is also simple present. No change is there. That's why this is the 0 rule. If there is no change, then this is the zero rule, and this is also one rule of changing conditional sentences. Now come to the next rule, and this is the rule number 1. So rule number 1, this is if plus subject plus v1 oblique v5 plus object, then subject plus will, shall, can, may plus v1 plus object. So very simple. If our if clause is in simple present tense, then main clause will be will oblique, shall oblique, can oblique, may plus v1. So this is the general future prediction, but it's not 100% sure. If again it happens the 100%, then we will go to the zero rule. Okay, so let's clarify it with some example. If you study hard, you will get high score. So study v1 will plus get is the conditional main sentence. So you can predict that if you study hard, you will get high marks in your exam. Okay, you will score the higher marks. So this is the future predict, but it is not sure that we cannot say that you get 100%, because it is not possibly you will get the 100%. So in this condition, subject plus v1 and will plus v1, will get can plus v1. Okay, so next, if you get up earlier, you will catch the first bus. So get up is v1, will plus v1. Okay, so these are the some examples of rule number 1. If our if clause is in simple present tense, then main clause should be there in subject plus will, shall, can, may plus v1. Or in some cases, main clause is given and if clause is left blank. In this case, you have to see which structure is there and what box should be there. So if you sometimes you should look here and find it, sometimes you should look here and find it. So this is the rule number 1. Now next come to the rule number 2. Okay. Rule number 2 is if plus subject plus v2 plus object and subject plus would, should, could, might plus v1 plus object. Okay, so this is the another rule, and this is called the hypothetical imagination. hypothetical prediction. So you are imagining that it will happen. Okay. So in this case we use the subject plus be2 plus object, and subject plus would should put might plus be1 plus object. For example, if you worked hard, okay, if you worked hard, you would become rich. So subject plus b2 plus object, here subject plus would plus b1 plus object. So this is the, you find here the same as given above. Okay. Another, if I were a bird, I would fly in the sky. So if plus b2 and would plus b1. So this is changed into would plus b1 as I already mentioned you the structure. Okay. Now let's come to the our last rule. The last rule is rule number 3. Rule number 3 is if plus subject plus had plus b3 plus object, then subject plus would, should, could, might plus have plus b3 plus object. Okay. If our if sentence is in past perfect, then we have to change our main sentence in subject plus would, should, could, might plus have plus b3 plus object. So rule number 3 says us that if our if clause is in past perfect, then we have to make our main clause is in would, should, could, have plus b3 plus object. So let's do some example. If I had studied, yes, study, studied harder, I would have gone to university. Okay. So had plus b3, if I had studied harder, I would have gone to university, would plus have plus b3. So our if sentence is in past perfect and our main sentence is in would plus have plus b3 plus object. So These are the some examples of if sentences and conditional sentences. And very often we don't use this if. Okay, sometimes we also use sometimes instead of if. Sometimes instead of we use whether, when, or unless. Okay, but this unless is very often used to explain the negative. When we want to write the negative sentence, in this case, instead of if, we write unless. Otherwise for positive we use if, whether, or when, and for negative we use unless. Okay, let's look some examples. When you study hard, you will get high marks. Okay. Next, unless you study hard, you cannot get high marks, or you won't get high marks. So when is there, we write positive, but unless is here, we write negative here. So when, if, whether, they are used for positive, and unless is used for negative. And this is all about the conditional sentences and if clause. So please, if you have any question, any queries regarding the conditional sentence and if clause, please without any hesitation you can give me feedback, or you can ask to me. And what you get from my lesson, if you get something positive, if you have get some knowledge, then please write some comments after my video. Thank you very much.